And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break. Oh, and we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break. Oh, put you on mute right there for you. That's okay. I'll put you back on. I'll take you off mute in a second, Joe. And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our shows. And if you can, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source, it is truly appreciated. And I also want to go ahead and give a big shout out to everyone out there, at LakersBall.com. I also want to give, again, like I said, a big shout out to everyone there. They've been a great community who has embraced me so far and so well. I want to thank them so much for taking the time to do so. I truly appreciate it. Want to go ahead and make sure that I send Joe this link right now with the actual Facebook link right there so that they can go ahead and check things out right there. So I truly appreciate everything that they've done so far and the support that they've given us here at the Lakers Fast Break from everyone at LakersBall.com. But I'll tell you what, it's a great time to be a Lakers fan. It's getting right now a little bit winding down here in Las Vegas with the Summer League and all that. But I thought I'd talk about some other subjects that are happening right now when it concerns the Lakers, the Western Conference, and the NBA. And a good man to talk to is from LakersBall.com. They know him as Ox1947. That's Ox1947. So if you head on over to LakersBall.com, you're going to find him right there, right in the middle of the action. It is Joe Soro. And Joe, thanks for coming back, my friend.
The pleasure again thank you for having me. This is, again, the second show that we've done, and I believe it'll be one of many.
So too.
Again, it's going to get more exciting as the season prolongs. I know it's August now. We're looking at maybe about 2 months?
Yes.
A month and a half till training camp.
Yes. So you're gonna have that. We're gonna have that slow burn. We're gonna keep consistent shows out there. We're gonna just go for maybe 2, maybe 3 shows a week over the next couple months. I don't want to put too much emphasis or put too much on yourself and also the guys from Lakerholics.com. Want to go ahead and make sure you guys have a great summer and we ease back into it, because back in the thick of things, when we're having games every other night, things of that nature, we're going 5, sometimes even 6 episodes a week. So want to make sure that everybody has time for their family during the summer before it really heats up here at the Lakers Fast Break. But I truly appreciate it. But you will be hearing every week content. I just want to make sure and everybody knows that right here. So thank you so much again for joining us. We truly appreciate it. But now it's time to talk basketball, my friend. And I know that's what you're here for and everybody else out there. So we truly appreciate it. I wanted to ask you this. First off, we're going to be talking about potential contenders for the Western Conference Championship that might fend off the Lakers, or the Lakers might get irritated by during the course of the season. We'll also be talking about what player coming to the team intrigues him the most, and also his thoughts on the all-time top 10 Lakers. We recently had a conversation with the crew from Lakerholics.com on their thoughts on the all-time top 10 Lakers. So I want to hear Joe's thoughts on that as well. But we'll hold off on that for the very end. Because I know you want to go ahead and spill the beans on that. But first off, it is what we're going to do about the Western Conference. Because the Western Conference has been for years the dominant conference in the NBA for many years. I mean, this goes back to when Golden State was really a dominant force during the mid-2010s, and they were winning championships, or at least right there. There were still a lot of great teams that were right there with them. And the Eastern Conference was often called the Leastern Conference for the fact that it just didn't have enough teams there to support it. But I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, on this. When it comes down to the Western Conference, the Lakers, again, are the favorite right now here in Vegas to go ahead and win the Western Conference. And obviously they have a good team that I think can support that claim. But your thoughts on who might contend in the Western Conference?
We're coming upon the finally, after I'd say 20 plus years of the Western Conference finally being the Eastern Conference. This last season, and you can kind of use COVID as still an excuse and having a short season from before and all that. I'll get in that in a second, because again, as you get to know me, you'll know that excuses tend to, not really work when you're in conversation, at least with me. But anyways, let's look from top to bottom. The first seed this year, in my opinion, might have been the worst first seed probably since maybe Miami in '99, but that had a strike season, which kind of coincides with that there was something else going on where it wasn't your standard season. Hence why the Heat lost to the Knicks, which were the 8th seed in '99. Yes, guys, I do have a history lesson for you on every show. It helps kind of build the credibility, right?
Yes.
Utah Jazz were one of the least feared teams I think I've ever seen. And a lot of it, and again, I'm going to come off pretty mean here, Gerald. I'm not a big fan of Rudy Gobert. I think Rudy Gobert continues to win Defensive Player of the Year awards in the same fashion that I felt like in a lot of ways Dwight Howard was winning them back when he was competing. Now, I'm not saying that they're not good defensive players, but I think we've lost the definition of an impact defensive player. A lot of blocks, a lot of rebounds. Is that what it is? Because every time I see, and I have a nickname for Rudy Gobert, it's called Yogurt. Call him Yogurt. I don't know why. Gobert just sounds like some yogurt brand. And he plays soft and kind of all works together. And it wasn't a surprise that they got mangled in the second round. And I was actually wrong on that one. I actually thought that was a bad matchup for the Clippers. And I think that's probably why I'm more irritated by it now, because I was so off on that one. And it's probably why I'm angry about it. So Utah, if Rudy Gobert is going to be the second or 1A on a team like that, they have no shot at ever winning a title. They're going to need either third star or something else. Second seed, okay. Phoenix is 1 year older, at least for Chris Paul. Booker is, I know he was deflecting the Kobe comparison, and that was a very smart move on his part. Whether he'll even get close to anything like that it's not very realistic. I'm sorry. You just can't say that, not just for him, but just in general, common sense. There is no Kobe. I don't care how good Booker plays the rest of his career. He's never going to be Kobe. He's never going to be able to do what Kobe does. DeAndre Ayton had the playoffs of his career. Obviously, he's never been in the playoffs, but he was pretty effective in the playoffs up until probably towards the end there in the finals. And I don't really, and again, we're such a what have you done for me lately type of society, just in terms of analyzing. There was words going out saying how, it was an even draft now with Luka and Trae Young, and I'm like, what the heck are you? What? A guy has good games for 2 weeks, and now he's being compared to Luka and Trae Young. It's like, it boggles my mind why this stuff happens almost every day, every week. Phoenix totally played over their heads, and on top of the fact that they played over their heads, they had one of the easiest paths to the finals I've ever seen. Every team they played was massacred by injury. And they had a couple games there in the finals. If they had just made a couple shots, they would have won it. And it would have been an earned title. I don't want to say no one earned anything. They earned the final spot. They were the healthiest in the West. And they ended up, 2 games away from winning the title. So that's that. But I'm not really afraid of Phoenix at all next year with a healthy Laker team. Number 3. I don't know if the Clippers are going to be a threat yet. There'd have to be a little minor miracle in Kawhi Leonard's knee for them to be a contender
this year.
This coming year.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I actually did like how they played in the playoffs without him. I thought that was a surprise, and we got to give Ty Lue some credit there. I think he did motivate. He did strategize in a way where I think it did make an effect on it, whereas the year before, the mental part was obviously not there, and that's why they ended up blowing that 3-1 lead against Denver. So Clippers, I'm gonna put, if they can play like they did in the playoffs without Kawhi, and Kawhi comes back, he's slated to come back maybe around February. He's gonna have to come back around February. If he comes back in March, I don't know how the heck he's gonna be in shape to play in a playoff run. So if they have any shot, he has to come back in February in tip-top shape. He plays hard for about a month, and then he's back to being Kawhi. They might be a threat, but the reality is I'm a realist when it comes to torn knee ligaments for a basketball player, especially someone who's so talented. You're going to see a drop-off because that talent is immense. It's an immense talent. And
he had the injury, remember, after the age of 30. And this comes after the major injury he had to his quad. So, as he starts to get older, and I know he signed that, fabulous extension for $175 million. I mean, people have got to start thinking about, the fact that when he stays out, he makes sure of his own health first and foremost, a lot longer than some other players do, just because of the mystery surrounding how he takes care of himself, his whole body. And sometimes he'll just, goes and stays off injury for extended weeks, maybe than other players would. And then, when he comes back, is he going to play every other game? Is he going to take games off? Those are things in question for the team as well.
Yeah, again, it's still going to come down to if he's going to play, or if the Clippers are going to be playing this yo-yo type setup. It's going to depend on who they play. If they play a healthy Laker team, they're going to have a shot. I don't know. It's not looking good. I'm pretty sure it's not going to look good at all in terms of the future. No, the last, you could say, legitimate contender would maybe be Golden State. Again, we named 5, right? Uh-huh. We're naming 5, including the Lakers. The Western Conference is pretty much kaput at this point. It's pretty much going to be the Lakers if they're healthy. Golden State is going to have a returning Klay Thompson. Actually shredded his entire right lower area. Okay,
Klay Thompson, right?
Klay Thompson. I don't see how he's ever going to be back. And he might not be a DeMarcus Cousins, being that he's a perimeter player. He could be effective playing kind of cool and at the perimeter, not having to, be playing on the low block all year. But I just don't see how a guy in the NBA playing with these kind of professionals and these freakish athletes comes back from a torn ACL and a torn Achilles and becomes effective. It would be the first of its kind. I don't think there's anyone that's done that, that's returned to normal form. And I don't see it happening here either. I would love to see it for Klay Thompson's sake. And obviously we know his dad, and obviously Klay's a good dude. And, I really, if I could say a prayer and have him be like that, I would. But the reality is it's not likely he's ever going to be the same. Now, Steph Curry, he's going to be Steph Curry probably for another 3-4 years at the very least. Draymond Green, the, ultimate team player. Wiseman, I don't know what he's going to be. I just don't see Golden State being a threat at all next year. They'll have some good games. Maybe they'll win a couple games. Let's say if they were to face the Lakers in the playoffs at best, because of just having a Steph Curry who can shoot lights out at all times. He's the modern day Allen Iverson. You always have to factor in that he might win you a game or two just by himself. So as far as a contender, I don't see the only contender in the Western Conference is going to be injuries. And the Lakers injuries. That's it. I'm not saying this to be a homer, guys. I'm not saying this because I'm a Laker fan. This is real. I'm not worried about Utah. Phoenix, they may be a challenge, but and another year with CP3, I don't know where he's going to be. You just don't. I don't see that being a problem.
Everything has to go right for Phoenix like it did this past season. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. We saw what happened with the Lakers. Everything went right for the Lakers in that bubble, and it didn't go everything right, obviously this previous season. So it's very hard to have those consistently nothing goes wrong, no one gets really hurt type seasons 2 seasons in a row.
Sure. And again, you do have, in terms of the Lakers balancing out the regular season, this might be as good as of a balance as you can get. You have a point guard who can do anything: rebound, dish the ball, score, high energy, run the fast break. The only thing he can't do is shoot. Okay, but you got a bunch of shooters that can cover that. You don't need everybody to do the exact same thing. So how that coincides with the performance and how it ends up being, again, we're not going to know until we see it. Hopefully we don't have people falling on legs. That was the problem with LeBron last year, which is such a burner.
Yeah.
It wasn't an age thing. It wasn't, they were, I know he said that, they started the season too early, but I think he meant that for AD. But then at the same time, it's like AD's always hurt, whether it's after a full season, not after a full season. So to me, and again, I'm not, Gerald, you're going to hear me say this a lot. There's, a good excuse is still an excuse, no matter what. Yeah. And when you're in results business, doesn't matter if you're in sports, business, doesn't matter. Conversation, results is all that matter, and that's the bottom line. What bothers me about the excuses in this particular situation is they had 5 months off from March to August before they went into the bubble. The bubble was a mental test. It was the least physical test. Okay, you're not traveling. You're not sitting 6'10", 6'8", big guys in a plane sitting like this for 4 or 5 hours or 3 hours back and forth. Imagine if they had played Miami in normal terms. They would have gone back. They would have gone back to LA, let's say, after they beat Denver. Oh wait, they beat Denver in LA. So they would have still have to have flown, they would have stayed home the first 2 games, and then they would have flown to Miami and then come back for game 5 and then have to have flown back to Miami. That's the new 2-2-1-1-1, right? So again, I'm not buying the fact that the 2-month break was a 2-month break. It really wasn't. It was 5 months. You played for a couple months and then you were off 2 months. So as elite athletes, especially when you're AD, okay, AD is young. AD's in his prime. And until that guy fell on LeBron's leg, he was doing fine as well. And he's 37. So I'm looking forward to going into this next year and not having to hear about the excuses about a short season. Let's go play. Let's do our thing. Let's get number 18 up in the rafters. And then at that point, I know, greed is always there for Laker fans. We're going to want 19. But it does give us a little bit of like, okay, we finally passed the green turds. Everything else from here on out is icing on the cake.
Well, we'll see what kind of icing on the cake it is. What I'm going to say is the Eastern Conference and which we were calling for many years the Eastern Conference, I think, I don't know if it's just the winning by, of course, the victorious Milwaukee Bucks and winning the championship, but I think this year the Eastern Conference matches up more evenly. I think the fact the NBA should be happy because I think that there's a lot of teams that are very competitive on both sides of the equation in both conferences. I think when you look at it from, try to take a step back, you look at it from an objective standpoint, you see in the Eastern Conference, of course, there's Brooklyn and Milwaukee, but you have very competitive teams in Atlanta. You have a team in New York that's trying to reload as best they can and bring everybody back and go for a run, and everybody's excited about New York. You see Miami that really tried to up its game as far as some acquisitions during the course of the summer. Then you've got all the Philadelphia, which actually was the number 1 team in the conference, which everybody's sleeping on, I think. But then again, a lot of it rides on, will they trade Ben Simmons? Will they not trade Ben Simmons? Or will Ben Simmons ever find anything resembling a jump shot? So that's critical to them. But they're such a good home team. People can't forget how good that they are during the regular season. Then you have in the Western Conference, I know a lot of people are talking about Utah, but when it comes to Utah and Denver, they have such great home court advantages. And the Lakers, in their case, they play so well on the road. I think with all three of those teams, that's why they're always going to be at or near the top of their conferences, because with Denver and Utah, they have such a built-in home court advantage because of their climate, because of the elevation. I know a lot of teams just basically usually don't do well over there. I mean, it's been right there. The numbers dictate that. And I think that with the outside shooting that Utah provides, they'll always be competitive. But you're right. Once Gobert gets in the playoffs, they usually go ahead and chase him off the court or really make an example out of him, because he becomes such a liability, because everybody goes small in the playoffs now. And when Utah leaves Rudy Gobert out there, it just seems like it's a really big drag on the entire defense for Utah. And ultimately, that's one of the things that costs them. But you're right, having another star really would help them as well. The Clippers, I think they'll be an above 500 team until Kawhi gets there. I think that the way that they played in the conference finals is going to give them a lot of confidence going into next season. And I look for them to go ahead and be a competitive team, not a championship level team. We'll see what happens, like you said, when Kawhi gets back. But I think they're going to be a very competitive team. Phoenix, everything has to go right. With Phoenix, everything absolutely has to go right for them. And if something goes off the rails, especially if it's Chris Paul, that could be an issue as well. And then with Golden State, like you said, Golden State is going to get some nice players in there. I really love the Otto Porter signing. I really think that's so underrated for the minimum, and I wish the Lakers would have gotten him. But seeing him with Wiggins, they have a lot of youth. They have a lot of athleticism. Things could go right for them, but a lot hinges on how Klay Thompson will be when he finally comes back. I really think that that's going to hinge a lot on their success this season.
Well, I think the Otto Porter signing would not have been good for the Lakers because he's too injury prone, and you can't risk an already Laker team from the year before that was ravaged by injuries. That's likely why they didn't sign him. If he works out, he works out. That means he ended up getting through that injury bug. I think he's only played, I don't know, maybe 70 games in the last 3 years. But again, Golden State, not really feeling what they're going to do. They'll have their moments, but they're not a threat. Clippers, not likely going to be a threat because I don't think Kawhi is going to ever be the same, especially if he comes back next year. Phoenix, Utah, again, I'm not scared of them. I'm not scared of any of these teams.
Well,
Looking at shifting back east, and I think that the Philadelphia Sixers are going to play this out with Simmons, and if he's dreadful again before the All-Star break, they might just have to bite the bullet and not get the value that they want out of him. I don't know where Ben Simmons' brain's going to be. I just don't know. I never expected him to turn into Markelle Fultz. I don't know what's in the water in Philly. I know Philly's a hard place to play in. People used to always say Raiders were the bad, team, the bad stadium, the bad. I'm like, I've been to Oakland Coliseum at least 4 or 5 times in my life. As a matter of fact, I thought the Oakland Coliseum during Raider games were the most enjoyable games to watch. The cesspool, you've heard me say that about San Francisco, was Candlestick Park before they moved over to the new stadium. And of course, worse than them is anything in Philly. Veterans Stadium had a reputation back in the day where they used to say football players used to get their cleats used to get stuck into the AstroTurf.
Yeah.
They had a court in the stadium. They would try people in there. And they threw batteries. They cheered Michael Irvin, almost breaking his neck. Michael Irvin, the Dallas Cowboys receiver back in the 90s. So I don't know what's going on in Philly. Obviously, Joel Embiid has the personality to deal with stuff because he's kind of an original type of guy. He doesn't give you the line. It's one of the things I love about Joel Embiid is he'll talk some smack and give you the true answer, not the company lines. Ben Simmons, phenomenal defensive player, obviously phenomenal ball handler. However, in the playoffs, you have to make shots. In this era, you have to make shots when you are a guard. So they really only have two choices. They either got to eat it and get something for them, which is not going to be anywhere near the hype and the first overall draft pick value, or you got to just realize that he's Dwight Howard with an even worse jump shot. In his prime. Just put him at the 4, let him play defense. Sure, he'll control the ball every now and then, but he's basically a defensive guy and an offensive liability, and you got to have another guy you might have to take him out. You might have to take him out during crunch time.
And that's a problem. I mean, you're spending that kind of money on the guy.
You can't. You got to send him.
He's got a huge contract. That's a guy you are not supposed to leave on the bench when it's crunch time.
Right. Again, that's why you got to kind of think outside the box. You gotta use him for his true strengths. Problem is, I mean, he wasn't as catastrophic, obviously, with Shaquille O'Neal. There were times when Phil Jackson would take him out during the end of the game. It's just something you had to do. He was a liability. They were going to foul him. They were going to slow the game down. And luckily, he was so good that I don't distinctively remember ever, and I watched almost all those games where his free throw really cost the team a game. That even the regular season game, I never felt like it cost them. And in Ben Simmons' case, that one shot, it was late in the 4th. He was right under the rim. I thought he was going to dunk the ball, and he passed it, and it ended up being a turnover. And you just heard the Philly crowd, and I was in my house watching this, and I'm like, what the are you doing? Dunk the ball. You were right there. Hey, that's what you do usually when you go to the rim. You're 6'10". At least dunk the ball. You know it's going to go in. Hearing that Philly crowd, knowing that I was even thinking this way, I can only imagine what a Philly fan was thinking. The Sixers are going to be a liability. He's going to be a liability for them until they they have to get some other guy there, which they don't have enough money to do. They're paying too much for what they're doing now. With Tobias Harris, and you got Embiid, and you got Simmons. How are you going to get it? You can't get a 4th star. You're going to have to trade him, and then at that point, hopefully they get somebody of value where it's going to help in today's game. Milwaukee is going to be a force for the foreseeable future. Obviously, the Brooklyn Nets are going to be, at least for the next 2 to 3 years, a contender. So the Eastern Conference, in my eyes right now, they have 3 championship caliber teams if they just tweak that Simmons thing in Philly, and that would give the East at least a 3 or 4 year window where they may have more championship quality teams than the West.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's going to be a very competitive season up ahead, and again, it depends all on placement during the season where you're going to have Russell Westbrook take a good lion's share of the as far as the usage. You want to go ahead and make sure you're not pushing LeBron and AD. You want to try and keep them healthy as you can for the playoffs and the postseason. I'm thinking that with the intensity and just the drive that Russell Westbrook has on a game-to-game basis, that the Lakers should be at or near the top of the Western Conference. I think it's just a matter of, how much time do you want to give LeBron and AD off? How much do you want to go ahead and have them play? Will they be injured during the course of the season? But I think that's just, going into the playoffs, it looks like to me in the Western Conference that it's the Lakers and everybody else.
At this point, yes. The only way it changes is if there's a blockbuster trade. That brings in a third player somewhere in Phoenix or Utah. I don't know how that. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's going to happen. The Lakers are at this moment number 1 in the West. AD is going. I haven't been hearing anything out of the AD front. I usually think that's a good idea. You don't see any publicity on a video on Twitter where he's working out and showing it and saying, lame lines like "I'm coming after it this year" or some BS line like that. I know LeBron is good at doing that stuff, but LeBron's the exception at this point because he's kind of proved what he can do. But AD's been very quiet, and I like that. I'd like to have him come in. And again, I'm not. He's 28. This is the prime of a guy of his caliber. He is in his prime. Shaq won his first title at 28. MJ won his first title at 28. I think LeBron might have won his 28, 29. This is it right here. This 28 to 32 window is AD time. He has the talent. He's already won. He's already shown he can play in the big games. He's hit buzzer beaters to win playoff games, big playoff games. He's gone Bill Walton in the finals, not missing a shot for 2 quarters. He can be that guy. And that is really what I'm going to be looking at coming this year. Russell Westbrook is intriguing, and we'll probably get to that part. I know that's part of our discussion tonight. But AD is the guy I'm going to be watching. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I really, really, really like Anthony Davis. I like everything I like the way he thinks, he talks, his game. The only negative is it's that focus. It's that focus sometimes veers off a little bit. And I do have to hand it to him, though. He tried playing with that messed up leg. And I think we should give him credit. I think we should give him credit. We knew. I've pulled a groin before, and it didn't heal for 3 months. I kept aggravating it. And I didn't have the state-of-the-art doctors and trainers and all that. And I'm kind of stubborn when I get hurt. I just kind of play through the pain. I don't
Wow, what would ever make me think that?
Yeah. And this is back when I was in college, so it was even worse then. Yeah, it's an aggravating place to get injured. I'd say the hamstring and the groin are the 2 worst injuries you can have in terms of soft tissue damage because you don't know when they're going to heal. The back, there's parts in the back that can definitely be a problem too, but I don't know, man. Every time I've kind of messed those places up, it's like I can't do what I really want to do. The back, I can put a brace on, I can do something and just to kind of tighten it up a little bit. But hamstring and groin, I think the groin might have been worse than the hamstring. So AD is going to be the guy I'm going to be watching. LeBron, he'll do his thing. Again, I've said this in the last show. He's the Tom Brady of the NBA. As long as he doesn't have people falling on his leg, he'll be there. And then, of course, Russell Westbrook is still in his prime. So how that will play into the team's performance is going to be basically him covering a lot of holes that they had last year, which was playing time. He's going to allow guys that matter not to have to play all the time. And it's going to be a progression throughout the year. It's going to be that week, day in and day out type situation where as soon as we're up by 13, we go into the 4th, we sick Westbrook on him. Just run the heck out of everything. Let him get every rebound. Let him get every pass to the open man. Let him keep the lead up. Then LeBron's not coming in the 4th until the 6-minute mark. Those are the things that I see him doing, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it as well. And one last question on this. I want to hit you up on this, and real quick, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It's Gerald along with a good man indeed. It is Joe Soro of LakersBall.com. So make sure you hit him up, Ox1947 at LakersBall.com when you're there. A great conversation will always be had at LakersBall.com. I wanted to ask you this before we hit up the other topics, and I want to ask you this. Mark Stein first reported this, and he had said that there's inferences that AD is more inclined this year to go ahead and play more of the 5 during the course of the regular season. We all know what he does during the playoffs, and that he plays willingly more of the 5, which is more suited for his talents. The numbers reflect that, the analytics reflect that, and the eye test reflects that. The team plays better. The team definitely plays better when he is playing at the 5 spot. Do you see ever a scenario this season that he will go and transition there a lot more often, maybe even full-time or close to it, because the fact that, a lot of people have been asking, or at least hoping. And in fact, I've talked to Lakerholics.com crew. Even though none of us are really convinced that it will happen, we're hoping that they will just go ahead and get the message to start games with AD at the 5. I don't think they will. I think they'll just always do the traditional Marc Gasol or Dwight Howard at the 5 spot to start the games, at least during the regular season. But your thoughts on AD playing more and even possibly starting at the 5 this season?
No, I don't. It would have to be a matchup situation in the playoffs for him to start at the 5. I do believe he'll be the crunch time 5.
Oh, that always happens, regardless, even during the regular season.
He'll be the crunch time 5. If you're gonna say what is he gonna do more of this year? He will be in crunch time 5 almost every game when it matters. Playing the 5, Vogel's going to play the percentages here. If you're playing against, let's say, a Gobert, you're going to play somebody that's got a big man that that you can draw out, or play in the post. You probably don't need to use AD in there. The team's best lineup will be with obviously AD at the 5, the point guard being Russell, LeBron playing off the ball, which, again, he's not going to be as tired if he's off the ball. It's common sense. And then whichever new arrival ends up being the most valuable shooter will be in that lineup. Whoever that might be, I don't know if it's going to be Nunn. I don't know if it's going to be Ellington. I don't know if it's going to be Carmelo. But they're going to be playing, and we're going to find out. Malik Monk, we're going to find out who those other guys are, the guys that can actually hit the open shot. Russell Westbrook cannot be dependent on hitting open shots regularly. However, you can depend on him to do everything else. LeBron is LeBron. I don't need to talk about LeBron. And then, of course, AD, you've got the complete big man in the NBA right now. And if he's healthy, he'll do anything. You just got to make the open shots. The shots that Kyle Kuzma, KCP for maybe a little bit of time sort of hit, but he even kind of veered off to where he wasn't playing very consistently. So as far as AD, again, you're going to see him play the 5 more this year. Absolutely. But they will still try and limit the banging for him during the year. Now, I wish they wouldn't do that. Again, it's going to depend on AD's focus and regiment this summer. Is he eating the good foods? Is he working with the trainers daily? Is he really going to sit down and do what Shaq did in 2000 after Phil Jackson said, listen, you've been in this league 7 years. This is going to be your 8th year. How are you not an MVP yet? That's the speech I'd have with AD. You're 28. You just hit your prime. Heck, you hit your prime 2 years ago. Now you're in your prime. Go after the MVP. LeBron is the perfect facilitator to that. LeBron can play with anyone. Doesn't matter if it's Russell Westbrook, James Harden. He won a title with Kyrie Irving. Okay, the worst professional athlete from a chemistry standpoint that I've seen in this era. Okay, phenomenal player. I know Kobe loved him. I know he loved Kobe, and it's hard to kind of go all in on that because of that. But Kyrie Irving is the worst star that I've seen in this era in terms of just caring about this game, caring about everything. If you're going to sit there and you're going to go, well, I'm more than a basketball player. I'm like, okay, well, how about you take a pay cut to $10 million then? If you're, more than a basketball player, when you're getting paid $35 million a year, get your butt in that freaking court and play. I don't want to hear about personal reasons. You know what happened to Rick Fox when his kid was being born. Okay, this is his kid. He's in New York. This is during the 2000 season. If you guys had watched Birth of a Dynasty on Sportsnet, on Spectrum Sportsnet, there's a segment there. I didn't know this until I saw the episode where Phil Jackson was straight up like, "Where the hell are you?" Okay, he didn't say this. I'm paraphrasing in a way and assuming this is what happened based off what Rick was saying. Hey, where are you? This guy just had a kid. Like, he wanted to spend time with the kid, and all that stuff. And it's just like, here's this guy taking time off because, I don't know, he feels like it. So focus for a lot of these players is just not good. And I think it obviously has a lot to do with the fact that all of them are getting paid $35, $40 million. Sometimes when you have that kind of money, now I don't have that kind of money, but I have a pretty good amount. You do lose some focus sometimes if you're not careful. So AD MVP. If that guy shows up, and again, I'm not trying, I'll take the DOPY AD too. Hopefully the voters don't screw this one up again. And like they did in 2020. If we get at least DOPY AD, he can put him at 5, at the 4. I don't care. You put him at the point guard. I don't care. He's going to help this team win a title.
Once again, I'm speaking to Joe Soro. You got to go ahead and check him out today as Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. Be part of the great conversations that they have each and every day at LakersBall.com. Some great conversations back and forth on the Lakers history, what's going on in the NBA, and so much more. Check it out today at LakersBall.com. Joe, it's great having you here, but there's more to talk about on today's program. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, with all the players that are coming in, and you kind of hinted it already previously, is which player that's coming into the Lakers, not AD, not LeBron, not THT, and not Gasol, because those are the only guys that are coming back from last season's team. And I made this remark to the Lakerholics crew. I said that in the bubble, the team that won the championships, there's only 3 guys from the bubble championship team that are currently on the roster, and that's THT, LeBron, and AD, and that's it. And that's it. At THT, if he's traded away, that would leave 2. So you see right there what happens. But I want to ask you this: of all the new entries onto the Lakers roster, which one intrigues you the most?
Kendrick Nunn. That's the most intriguing one right now.
Yep, good choice.
There's some question marks in terms of the focus after, let's say, again, Talon getting his new contract. There's going to be a wonder there on whether he will be comfortable or try to earn that contract. And then you got Russell Westbrook. Obviously, he's Russell Westbrook. It's fun to know. It's nice to know that they got the 3rd star in there.
Well, what intrigues you about Kendrick Nunn the most?
Well, what intrigues me about Kendrick Nunn is he has a particular NBA game that I like. It's this kind of feisty, can shoot, can get to the hole, especially for a guy his size, and kind of has a reputation of being, I don't know, not team-oriented.
Well, I mean, we saw we saw that in Miami, where there were periods of times where he would be on the bench and getting DNPs for like 2, 3, 4 games. Then all of a sudden, for whatever emergency that they needed, like in the finals when they suffered Dragic and
when Dragic went out,
and then they had injuries like that. Guess who came in and saved the day for them, at least in one of those games, was Kendrick Nunn. I mean, you saw this take place during the course of the season as well, where he would be out of the rotation. All of a sudden, they give him the call, and there he is scoring 20 to 25 points.
Right. So my observation of that was, why don't you just play Kendrick Nunn, who's fully healthy and capable, instead of a one-legged Dragic? I get that Dragic is the kind of like the organizer and the point guard, but you're getting a half a player. Go and just let the guy that's actually being effective right now do his thing. But again, I'm some schmuck out in Temecula saying this, and I'm going against Pat Riley and Spoelstra. It's not going to sound right when I say it like this, but from what I saw, I don't think he was given a fair shake there. And it might be because he might communicate in a way where it bothers people. And now the intriguing part is, being that we have Frank Vogel as the coach and somebody like Rob Pelinka, who are company men. They're going to try to do the company thing with them instead of being the Iron Man like a Pat Riley. And again, I'm more like a Pat Riley than I am a Frank Vogel or a Rob Pelinka.
You like those 3-hour practices?
Well, again, I it's like when you go to the gym, okay? When I grew up going to the gym, I was there a long time. And I wasn't there doing cardio either. Okay, cardio became a necessity because you get older and you got to do cardio. But when I was a kid, when I was in college, I was lifting weights, and lifting for 45 minutes never worked with me. So I don't know how to do anything other than to do it a lot, and his way works too. I like it. Pat Riley's way works. It still works. But at the same time, when, you still got to look at every situation for what it is. Sometimes we start falling into this trap where you start to assume everything is the same. There are earmarks for things. There are things that are, the norm, like a certain person that you'll talk to that's got a certain personality. You'll know, oh, I know what he's going to do. I know what she's going to do. But you always still got to keep an open mind on what might not be there, which is, let's say Kendrick Nunn comes in here and Frank Vogel goes, listen, I know those guys didn't appreciate your talent. I have the 2 position open. You freaking kill it. I'm going to give you every opportunity to take that spot. It's yours. And let's see what these guys are made of. And that's how I'm looking at that situation, because if one of those guys, especially him, because of his skill set, if one of our free agent signings comes in and plays lights out, it's over. It's over. Then no one's going to beat him. So that's how I'm looking at that. On top of the fact that he can get to the hole, he can shoot, he's got the attitude. So again, if he makes it, if he takes that spot above anyone else, it's going to be more valuable than any of the other new guys that are coming in. No doubt.
I'll tell you what, I think a lot of people out there are expecting, obviously the big 3 to go ahead and dominate whatever stats on the team. And then everybody else is just going to get a pittance and middling. I'm going to tell you, if someone like Kendrick Nunn comes on the team and he has that potential to go ahead and from time to time get you 20 to 25 points, and he does average in maybe 12, 15, 17 points a game, if he can do that for you and provide consistent defense, I know he's 6'2", but he still plays really dogged defense against, as far as on a face-to-face basis. I really think that it could be a great sign for the team, especially during the regular season, because we're trying to find any which way we can to get the pressure off LeBron and get the pressure off AD so that they don't have to feel like they do everything. And not only will you have Russ there trying to go ahead and push the tempo each and every game, but if you have someone alongside him like Kendrick Nunn that can perform like, we saw like in the finals and, against us in the bubble, and you just see that kind of potentials there, I really think he could be the key to a really magical season in LA.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt that the talent is there. The attitude could be what it is, and we end up finding out he ends up being a Schroeder in a way.
Yeah.
And that again, that when your team is already having issues, that could be the nail in the coffin, which that's what ended up kind of being the precursor until obviously AD finally got taken out. Schroeder didn't make things easy, and because we needed him to be that guy, and he didn't come through. if Kendrick Nunn doesn't become that guy, if he does become a problem, they can jettison him, and they have enough guys there to cover that and not have it be a problem. So we win either way. This time, anyone who's messing with the chemistry will likely not be a problem. They'll be able to shift them somewhere else and then just focus on the guys that want to actually, do good here. It also weighed a lot on, and thinking of the last year as well, I think the pressure on Kyle Kuzma, it really did affected the team, and it affected him as well. And again, that sometimes with combination of something else and then combination of something else, it kind of starts to eat itself just like a cancer. And we went through those droughts all year where they didn't score for 5 to 6 minutes. And those were the signs too, like, really? How do you not score with LeBron in the game and guys that have won championships and hit big shots? No, there was a lot of evidence that they just were not clicking, because you had players that were thinking too much, missing open shots. You had a guy who turned down $21 million a year for 4 years to start for the premier sports franchise in North America and sunny Hollywood and all this and all that. So back to our discussion from last time, he didn't give a crap about that. He didn't give a crap. He had the perfect setup, playing with LeBron, playing with AD. It just, I don't know. Again, we're gonna find out. Obviously, I'm very, very excited to find out, and I do believe those who don't come through, it won't be as detrimental this time as it was last year, because there was really no margin of error last year because of the injuries, because of, you want to use the bubble as the season starting too early, things like that. That's it. Those things are all gone now in my book. Now it's time to go, okay, guys, you have everything you need. If I'm Rob Pelinka and I'm Frank Vogel and I'm Jeannie and I'm going, okay, guys, we may have I know we were trying to improve some things, but we kind of maybe played our hand a little too much. Maybe we should have brought back Rondo and Dwight. Well, okay, we may have screwed that one up last year. And of course, the season coming the way it went in with the bubble, such a short amount of time. Okay, we've gotten past that. Now, here we are. Here's everything laid out. Here's everything that you guys need. You have plenty of time you had plenty of time to rest during the offseason. Let's go get number 18. Let's put this thing to bed, and let's put the green turds where they belong, which is underneath the purple and gold.
Absolutely, because that's something that we can definitely think that could happen. And I believe that the team, again, it is an older team, and in fact, the oldest team in the NBA, average-wise. We know that going in, but I think there's going to be enough help and support there that can give the Lakers a good chance to go ahead and go all the way. I think in the Western Conference, I think you're right as far as your thoughts previously on where you think the Lakers will stand. I just think it's sometimes if they do not finish number one, I think it's going to be either because A, injuries, or B, like a lack of focus, like we talked about with AD, that they know that they can win. They know they can bring up their game at any time. We've seen that with the Lakers championship teams from the early 2000s. They turned it on when they wanted to turn it on. And I'm going to see with this team if they get off to a good start and they realize how good they are and they take their foot off the gas, and we'll see exactly how that lays out. Or if they keep it on the foot like they did during the 2019-2020 season when they were really dominant all year long.
I think that early 2000s team, the three-peat team, a lot of that had to do with obviously Shaq.
Oh, yeah.
But Phil also had a philosophy.
Zen.
Yeah, of balance. Because one of the greatest stretches in sports that doesn't get talked about was the stretch between March 30th of 2001 until December, I think it was 16th of 2001. It was obviously 2 seasons, but the run that the Lakers had during that process was they went They finished the season winning 8 in a row. Then they went 15-1 in the playoffs, which put them at 23-1 the last 25 games, 24 games. Yeah, 15-8. Yeah. Then they started the following year 16-1. 16-1, and then you have 23-1. They were 49-2 in that stretch. That's just mind-boggling to me. You know, I mean, how do you, and both those seasons ended up being championship seasons, epic games, all this stuff. So there's a balance that you can also see. Even during the 01 season and the 2002 season, you saw how dominant they could be, and you didn't feel like, these guys don't care. You kind of sensed it, especially in 01, because Kobe was injured for a lot of it. And then when he came back, that's when, you know, the feces hit the fan for everybody. As soon as they came back, it was like, oh, Kobe's passing the ball. You can say goodnight from now on. And then, of course, he went on to destroy the Spurs in 01. He destroyed the Kings on the road, because if you don't remember, again, guys, I know a lot of the guys on Lakers ball young and don't remember, but the balance between Kobe and Shaq was Shaq dominated at home, Kobe dominated on the road. The reason why Kobe had to dominate on the road was because Shaq was always in foul trouble on the road. It was hilarious how that always happened. And it was one of the that was probably the most irritating part of that era for me. It's like, why don't you just call the game the same way everywhere you go when you're a ref? Why do you got to call fouls that are the same damn fouls in LA? You don't call them in LA, but you call them in Sacramento or in Portland or in San Antonio. It never made sense to me. So going back to what we were discussing again, the focus is going to have to be more about, do you really want this? I know LeBron wants it, because every championship LeBron wins puts him closer to Jordan, even though in my book he won't even touch Kobe. You know, when you talk about greatest player of all time, there's only 2 players I ever saw that I would put in my first 2, which would be Michael at number 1 and Kobe at number 2. And I've seen Magic play. I saw a little bit of Bird playing. I saw Hakeem play, Shaq, all these guys, LeBron. Those 2 had a different beat. It's just different. It wasn't just their Mamba mentality or their incredible will to win. It was the game they played. You know, their physical game. No one, I've never seen anyone other than Jordan and Kobe play that way. LeBron, yeah, he's big, yeah, he's this, yeah, but there are flaws in his game. I'm talking strictly basketball, not accomplishment, because LeBron James has a chance to be the greatest ever in terms of accomplishments in the NBA. He is maybe 3 years away. When he beats Kareem's record, when he might have 40,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, and 10,000 assists. That's ridiculous. No one will ever break that record, ever. That's the most ridiculous record in my book when it comes to LeBron. I can't even fathom that idea. 40,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 10,000. That's just freakish. So he's going to be focused. Westbrook's going to be focused because that's who he is. He's always focused, even when he's knowing he's not going to win a title. He's still focused. So AD's health is the only thing left. AD, I believe, will be focused as long as he feels good. So that's what that is. And everybody else will fall in line. Everybody else they're going to do their role, veterans and all that. And by the way, the whole age thing, the guys that matter, the 3 stars, 2 of them are in the prime. So I don't know, like comparing those guys to the old super teams is stupid. 2 of the 3 stars are in their prime. This is not an old team where it matters. So I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Well, hopefully it won't be a problem. I mean, because it's all about the other players surrounding him. Again, the extreme age in some cases, with Carmelo being 37. We've got Dwight Howard in his mid 30s. We've also got Wayne Ellington in his mid 30s. I know a lot of people have been pointing that out. Of course, LeBron is going to be 37 by the time December rolls around. So that's going to be something a lot of people are going to continue to focus on and key on during the course of the season. But we will see how it plays out. I do like the fact that they do have an injection of youth in some good places with Malik Monk, who's very young. You've got Kendrick Nunn, who's still, a 23, I think, is himself. And then, of course, you got 20-year-old THT. Hopefully, THT can live up to that contract, like you said earlier, and be able to go ahead and provide some consistent play. I think that, he's still 20, so it's going to be a little bit of hot and cold with him, but hopefully he can develop into the type of player that can become someone that the team can rely on going forward. I'm looking forward to see if he can go ahead and live up to that contract. But before we head on out, my friend, I know you've been waiting to go ahead and share this to the audience out there. I recently got a chance to talk to the guys from Lakerholics.com, and they shared with me their choices, and I shared mine then as well, of the top 10 Lakers that they thought all time. And it was a very interesting list. It brought out all the Lakers stars from the present, past, and hopefully future as well. We'll be seeing some great stars coming up in the not too distant future. But my friend, before we head on out, we need to hear your thoughts on an all-time top 10 Lakers team from you, Joe Soro, from LakersBall.com.
So are we talking by position or just in general?
Just top 10 general.
Okay, so
position would be even harder. So I'm not gonna make that.
Well,
that hard.
I can do both. Now, here's a little caveat in this. I've had this discussion with I might have had something on LB about this before, but I don't think I went into too much detail on it. But to kind of put a little, original spin on this, to me, you have to have, at least in the top 5, you have to have the top 5 be only Lakers, which is kind of a bummer because you're going to have to take Kareem out, right? So I'm going to go with the top 5. You have to be an all-time Laker. And there's really only 6 guys in terms of great players that are going to be able to fit in there. One is Elgin Baylor. Number 2 is Jerry West.
Well, can you put them in order? Can you put an all-time top 10 list into order? Yes.
Okay, I'll start with this and then I'll get into the order, okay? So all-time greats, I'm talking the guys that are in the rafters, okay? You're talking about Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kobe Bryant, and George Mikan. People forget about George Mikan because he wasn't an LA Laker. He was a Minneapolis Laker, but it's the same franchise. Matter of fact, Elgin Baylor started his career as a Minneapolis Laker, so the bridge is there. Now people look at me and go, "You're out of your mind. You never saw George Mikan play." I'm like, "You're right. I didn't see him play, but we're talking about you want a list of all-time Lakers. That has to be how it starts. These are the guys that are all-time Lakers that never played for anyone else. It makes sense. Then after that, you go to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain. I didn't see Gail Goodrich play. I know he's a Hall of Famer and all that. I feel like he only played 6 years for the Lakers.
That's not as long.
Yeah, that one is. I don't know. I don't know about that one. And again, I'm not trying to denigrate his career. I know he was a UCLA guy and he's got a lot of lineage out in LA. But I guess I'd feel better to say a Paul Gasol, a Jamal Wilkes before I would say Gail Goodrich. If you're talking about non-players, obviously, is there a greater Laker than Chick Hearn? You could argue Chick Hearn's the greatest Laker. But top 10, to play it safe, to make the list make sense, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Kobe.
Can you put them in order?
Oh, in order. Oh, you want to know the greatest?
Yeah,
Oh,
1 to
wow.
10.
The first three are going to be really tough. I mean, really tough, and I'll tell you why. I don't know how you. So Jerry West was a great player, was not a bad coach, and the greatest executive in NBA history. He took care of the Lakers in 3 phases. And then, of course, you had Magic Johnson, who essentially saved the NBA and brought the exact thing, his game, his unique game, only he's ever had. He's like the Barry Sanders of the NBA. The only game you've ever seen is Magic Johnson there. And you brought it to LA, you brought it to Hollywood, it was Showtime. How do you argue against the Laker who was awesome in all 3 phases? The Laker who basically built the NBA's soul. And then, of course, Kobe Bryant, who, when Rajah Bell clotheslined him, did you know he got death threats from the Mexican mafia? That was I don't know if it was actually the Mexican mafia. Every time they say things out here in Southern California, you know this, Gerald, you know, it's always some bigger gang that's involved. But nonetheless, he got threats. People in LA, I don't think they ever loved anyone more than they loved Kobe Bryant. If I had to choose, because I was in the era of where I am, you have to go with Kobe at number 1, Magic at number 2, Jerry West at number 3. But those 3 you could argue those 3 are 1, 2, and 3, without a doubt. Number 4, 5. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to make sure that you're going to continue.
So you want the top 10? I'm going to give you the top 10 right now. Again, I wanted to kind of make that clear on how I thought of the all-time Lakers, because it's the easiest, at least in my head, to justify what I'm saying. By having the first 6 be only Lakers, it makes sense to me. Even though Kareem was better than George Mikan, Wilt was better than George Mikan, Shaquille was better than George Mikan. Again, but again, I'm trying to focus on just Lakers, Kobe, Magic, and Jerry West. Then you got. We'll put Kareem at 4, and then we're going to put Elgin Baylor at 5. So that's your top 5 Lakers team. And then from there, you go to Wilt, you go to Jamal Wilkes, soon to be AD, soon to be LeBron, and then Chick Hearn. Is that 10? I think I got 10 there.
That's that sounds like it's 10.
That would be my 10. The AD and the LeBron thing is still kind of festering, but they did win a title. And they are ridiculously great players. And LeBron is arguably a top 5 player of all time. So you can justify that. You can justify those guys in the top 10, even though they've only been playing for a short amount of time in LA. The top 10 picks for great players on teams is typically not the survey I like to take, because again, I feel like it's too obvious, especially for the Lakers. I think this would be a better question if it was someone like Portland or Golden State, somewhere where they haven't had where they have the 12th best player in their franchise was probably the greatest of his era. I mean, George Mikan was the NBA the first 10 years of the league. They had a billboard that said Mikan versus the Knicks. They didn't even put Lakers. They said Mikan versus the Knicks. That's how big he was. And I like to give a shout out to the old guys, man, because a lot of old guys made this stuff. They're Elgin Baylor was the first high flyer. It wasn't Dr. J. It wasn't Michael Jordan. It wasn't Pete Maravich. It was Elgin Baylor. He's the one that got off the air and did his thing. So those guys had an amazing game. They put their stamp in the NBA, and they obviously became Laker legends, which the Lakers and the Celtics, unfortunately, the Celtics, those are the guys that built this amazing league. And here we are still talking about all these guys. What is it now, 70 years later?
There you go.
Maybe even almost 70.
So we'll let me get your thought. Let me go ahead and make sure and clarify this for one last time. So for your all-time top 10, so you have Kobe at number 1. Was that correct?
I'll tell you right now. Yeah. So it's Kobe, Magic, Jerry West, Kareem, and Elgin Baylor is the top 5. Then you had Jamal Wilkes, Will Chamberlain. I left off Shaq, which was dumb. I'd say Shaq, Pau Gasol, Jamal Wilkes, Will Chamberlain. I think that's 10. That was a dumb move on my part. I don't know how the hell I left Shaq out.
We have Kobe at number 1, Magic at number 2, West at number 3, Kareem at number 4, Elgin number 5. You have number 6. You mentioned
number 6. You could put Wilt at number 6. No, put Shaq at number 6.
Put Shaq at number 6. Okay.
And then you can go Wilt at number 7, Jamal Wilkes at 8, Pau Gasol at 9, and then Chick Hearn at 10.
Okay.
Say LeBron and AD, and I shouldn't have said LeBron and AD yet. There's way too many guys that belong on that top 10 list before those guys get on yet. They might get on there next year. You'll replace Pau Gasol with AD, and then LeBron. At that point, you got to replace Jamal Wilkes at that point with LeBron.
Well, that's an interesting list, a very good one indeed. I really appreciate you taking the time to do so, and we would love to hear your thoughts, whether it's on LakersBall.com or if you want to go ahead and give us a shout out at LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, at LakersFastBreak on Twitter. You can go ahead and send me your list, and I'll read them on the air for your all-time top 10 Lakers in order. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that at LakersFastBreak on Twitter, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, or give it a big shout out on LakersBall.com. I mean, that's a great source of basically conversation there that could last for days on end, because the conversations on that, the going back and forth, who's better, who's not. We're not even talking about the rest of the NBA. We're just talking about Lakers alone, because like you said, the Lakers are such a storied franchise, an individual which shaped the early course of the NBA history, like George Mikan. He isn't even on your list. He's not on my list. He was only on the youngest individual that on our Lakerholics.com crew, 19-year-old Spencer Young. He was the only one that actually put him on the list. So it was funny, because of all the individuals that did have him on the list, it was the youngest individual that would have never even had a chance to see him play, actually put him on the list. But to see him there, to see him among these mentioned, just tells you how deep it is with all the names. I mean, there's so many individuals that we could go ahead and put, like you said, LeBron and AD, if they get another title, I'm sure they're going to start to be thought of in that realm. But I'll tell you what, that's a great list. And again, if anybody out there wants to go ahead and share their list, at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, or be part of the conversation today at LakersBall.com. I mean, I know you guys talk about a lot of stuff there. Yeah,
the before Pau Gasol, again, a true power forward, the true power forward. There was. You could argue that the best Laker power forward by position was, before Pau Gasol came to the Lakers, was Vern Mickelson of the Minneapolis Lakers. He was the power forward in the Laker organization that played that position. You had an argument there that he might have been that spot in that spot. Obviously, it's changed in the last 13 years, but you gotta mention those guys. You gotta mention the old Lakers. You gotta mention the old Celtics and St. Louis Hawk teams, and even the Rochester Royals, who are now the Sacramento Kings. They won a championship in the 50s. These guys, I know they played in an era where there was only 7, 8 teams, sometimes 9 teams, but it's still it's still a part of the league, and you got to give those guys the credit because they helped build this thing. They had no choice in how teams were built and who they could play. It's been cracking me up with this whole bubble thing. There's some whispers that they're still saying, well, that wasn't a real playoff run, or the Dodgers when they only played 60 games last year. I'm like, well, everybody played with the same rules. They can't help that. If you're going to find every excuse in the book to not verify a championship, oh well, they only played 66 games in 2012. Okay, but everyone else did. It was an even playing field. So you got to give those guys credit, and I brought their names up for that. We get stuck in revisionist history. Everybody thinks, oh, Lakers, Anthony Davis and LeBron James. No. Even with the title, no. Heck, I left out Michael Cooper, because he's not in the Hall of Fame. I want to talk about phenomenal Lakers. Very, very, very short list of guys that are going to be better Lakers than Michael Cooper. So, again, there's too many. There were way too many on this team. We have, I don't know how many statues outside, and there's going to be more, and we are very lucky. I'm very lucky that my dad chose the Lakers growing up because I couldn't imagine being any other fan. Obviously, I wouldn't have known any better, but shoot, I was born in Detroit. My dad could have been a Pistons fan, but it's pretty smart. Moved to California when I was young and picked the right teams.
Well, we still have Lakers fans in Detroit. We got Lakers fans.
Oh, actually, hold on. But the irony in saying that is, you know what the Lakers' original team was called?
What was that?
Their nose? It wasn't the Minneapolis Lakers. Do you know, Gerald?
No, not offhand. I don't. That's
the original franchise was called the Detroit Gems, and they obviously relocated for financial reasons, like most of the professional teams back then. But their original name, their original city, was in Detroit, and their names were the Gems. I went online to see if there was any kind of footage or any kind of box score. There was this small picture of, I think it was right underneath the basket, where you could see the Gems jersey name on the guy that was playing. So yeah, little history on the Lakers that we did actually. I did. My team started out where I was born, and here we are now after. Well, I'm 43, so after 43 years, we kind of share the same history in a way. So it was meant to be, I think.
It was definitely meant to be. But before we head on out, my friend, I do want to go ahead and make sure you get the chance and opportunity to go ahead and give a big shout out to everyone there at LakersBall.com. They do a great job of keeping the conversation flowing at LakersBall.com. But please, you've been the guy that's had a lot of experience and spent a lot of time there. Tell everybody why you enjoy so much LakersBall.com.
Well, again, it's I'd say the most enjoyable part is always during the season. I shouldn't say that. There are two parts that I absolutely love, and they're almost equal in quality. One is when free agency starts. That place it has the energy like you can't compare. The NBA free agency feeling is the best. It's the best offseason in any sport. It just has constant action and people posting tweets and people signing and this. It's almost just as interesting as the regular season game sometimes. That right there, when we're on the page and we're up, you can tell there's a lot of people on there, a lot of activity going on, and a lot of good vibes. Got a lot of, oh, I can't believe he went here. Oh, I can't believe he went there. Just really good dialogue, really good energy, and just fun to see the element of surprise and saying, yeah, that makes sense. And, oh my God, I can't believe this guy went over there. Great environment. And then of course, the other part is when the season's going on, we have a game time thread where it's real time, a dialogue during the game. My favorite internet thing ever. I mean, It's just so much fun. You're sitting there, you're making jokes. You put a funny GIF on there. People are saying this, people are saying that. We're getting our butts kicked in a game and we're still cracking jokes. That part that's the part that I love about this site. I almost want to, anytime any event happens, I want to be on there and talk to everybody. You know, forget about the Laker game. Let's just get on there and talk. Like when the Field of Dreams baseball game happened. I found out later that actually was being done. I've been so busy. I hadn't had a chance to really register that was going on. When I ended up finding out that they did that, and I was just in awe. I was like, wow, who the heck thought of this idea? And the way the game ended, and I was imagine if you're, typing away with your friends, because I don't consider, my friends there at Laker Ball just Laker people. They're just good people. I enjoy their company online. And those are the things that really, really make it so unique. And there's a little bit of me saying that at some point there's going to be an influx of people that are going to see that and enjoy it. And I just hope it doesn't get to a point where it gets so saturated that it turns into what is it? I have an app. It's a score app where when you see the dialogue chat on that, it's just going page by page. There's no point in typing. So I hope a little of me says, yeah, I want people to come and join in and enjoy the stuff. But at the same time, the other half is like, don't have too many people come here. Otherwise, this whole thing gets ruined. You have a good set of 15 or 20 people that are on there that'll have some good dialogue going back and forth. I don't want 2,000 people on there typing to the point where all you're reading is the page going by every 2 seconds. So yeah, that's where I stand on that. And it's not likely, again, that there's no way I'm probably going to any other Lakers site, no matter what. That's my spot. My plan with the podcast and with you, Gerald, is to at least help in bringing maybe something different to the media side of the Laker thing. And a lot of my peeps out there are gonna eventually get involved in this, and we're all gonna benefit and enjoy this and really 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 be the voice and the attitude of the Lakers, which they don't really need a lot. There's a lot of psychopaths out there that are Lakers.
This is true, my friend.
So,
all you need to do is just venture into Twitter, and you'll find exactly.
Yeah, that. Twitter is really good during free agency. After that, it's trash, because you have a bunch of random people who think they have a forum to do whatever they want, right? Which, again, it's America. I get it, but you have to be able to. You have to also know, yourself. You have to have some common sense and understand. Get some information first before you get offended by things. That's a big thing in my world. Is being offended is a weakness. To me, I don't care. If it's not true, then what difference does it make? Am I going to get upset because someone thinks something's going on? No. Just like the Lakers, everybody thinks they're old. Okay, and I'm sitting there going, they're not. They're not old where it matters. Where it matters is you got two of your stars that are in their prime. And then you got young guys like THT and Monk and Nunn. You got 5 guys right there that are going to be integral parts of this game. And then you got another 3 or 5 that are vets. This is an evenly balanced team. It's just that the old guys are really old, especially the bottom half. Guys like Dwight, guys like Ariza. No, I'm not. Again, in the end, it's about the results. So we're going to find out in 10 months, 9 months, whatever it is, during this year, or maybe we might find out in 8 months. I don't know. It depends on, obviously, when they finish. But we're going to find out. We're going to see what the results are. And then at that point, we can judge where it is. And it's still, though, in the end, and I said this in the last show that we did, I am going to pat Jeannie, Rob, Frank, and the whole organization on the back and say, you know what? You tried. You tried. You did everything you could. You don't win it. you guys weren't good enough, but you tried. And let's try to see if we can do it the following year. So we'll go from there.
We will go from there indeed. But check out what Ox 1947, a.k.a. Joe Soro, is doing today and in the coming days at LakersBall.com. Well, Joe, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your thoughts on today's program. It truly was a pleasure speaking to you again. I look forward to our next conversation here in the coming weeks and months coming up. We're going to go ahead and talk Lakers and the NBA. Looking forward to that. But any last thoughts on the way out?
Yes, enjoy your vacation.
Well, I'll see what I can do on that.
I'm looking forward to you getting back, and we're gonna be doing some fun shows in the next few months. So just enjoy the vacation. I took a few during July. I'm all vacationed out. I'm ready to rock and roll now. So have fun, be safe. Just come back and let's keep the ball rolling.
Absolutely, indeed. Once again, it's Joe Soro. You can catch him today as Ox 1947 at LakersBall.com.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening. We truly appreciate it. Once again, if you have any questions for us, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com or at LakersFastBreak on Twitter. You can always go ahead and share your top 10 Lakers list with me, and I'll share them on the air. Or if you can, and if you want to, LakersBall.com is a great place to go to share your thoughts on the all-time top 10 Lakers. I know that'll start a big conversation there. So if you can't, go ahead and do so there or with us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. I want to give a big shout out before we head on out to Tiffany, Ralph, Elton, JC, and Robin for sharing their big thumbs up on Facebook. Again, you can catch us all the time for the latest news and information on the Lakers at Lakers Fast Break on Facebook and, of course, at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter as well. But, Joe, it's been great having you on the show. I cannot thank you enough. Looking forward to having you back on once again right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.